3 months after the battle, Sarah stood in the restored Hall of Unity, watching the sunset paint New Beijing's crystalline spires in shades of gold. The chamber had been transformed, its architecture now a harmonious blend of custodian, human, and diaspora design. Through the quantum network, she sensed the ongoing changes as Earth adapted to its children's return. The last precursor stronghold surrendered this morning, Maya reported, her markings showing peaceful satisfaction. The Galactic Heritage Protection Act has been ratified by 300 species. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of their victory. The quantum lattice remained in orbit, no longer a weapon but a shield, protecting Earth as it had been meant to do 500,000 years ago. And the recovered archives. Being restored planet by planet, Xinxe answered, his energy form stable and bright. The Centaurian collective has already begun rebuilding their ancestral cities. The Proxima Federation discovered art and music they thought lost forever. Through her neural interfaces, Sarah accessed the facility's quantum core, now integrated into a galaxy-wide network of truth and preservation. Each species was reclaiming its history, understanding its journey, healing wounds that had festered for millennia. The Custodian Science Council is amazed by your environmental integration protocols, Xinxe continued. The way your ships and technology adapt to preserve local ecosystems, it's revolutionary. Sarah's smile held genuine warmth. Evolution isn't about domination. Our ancestors understood that. They encoded not just the ability to adapt, but the wisdom to know how. Her markings shifted to display patterns of growth and harmony. The quantum network hummed with activity as ships from across the galaxy arrived daily, seeking to learn from Earth's returned children. The diaspora fleet had transformed their crystalline ships into floating cities that danced through the atmosphere, sharing technology and knowledge while carefully preserving the balance that the custodians had maintained. There's something you should see, Xinxe said, leading them to a new addition to the hall. A massive quantum crystal display showed real-time data from across Earth. Watch what happens when we overlay the ancestral data with current readings. The display shimmered, and Sarah's enhanced vision detected the pattern immediately. The resonance, it's perfect. Ancient human structures and modern custodian cities aligned in ways that created harmony rather than discord. Their ancestors had designed Earth's recovery into their very exodus. Your people never intended to simply return and reclaim, Xinxe observed. You came back to complete the pattern. To heal it, Sarah corrected, her temporal sense extending into possible futures. The precursors saw evolution as a path to power. We learned it's a journey toward understanding. Outside, the crystalline spires of New Beijing reflected the last rays of sunset as stars began to appear. Ships from a dozen species moved through the evening sky, their designs already showing influence from the diaspora's adaptive technology. But none attempted to copy it exactly. Each culture was finding its own path of evolution. The first generation of combined schools opens tomorrow, Maya reported, her markings showing excitement. Custodian, human, and representatives from 15 other species, all learning together. Sarah touched the quantum crystal display, feeling the pulse of Earth's restored rhythms. Our ancestors sacrificed everything to give us this chance, not just to survive, but to become something greater. Through the network, she sensed the changes rippling across the galaxy as species after species rediscovered their heritage and potential. The Hall of Unity filled with representatives for the Evening Council. Custodians, humans, and delegates from across the stars, gathering to shape a future no longer bound by artificial limitations. Sarah's markings shifted to display the most ancient human pattern, hope. We evolved beyond what the precursors thought possible, she said, watching the first stars emerge. But our greatest evolution wasn't in our bodies or our ships. It was in understanding that true advancement only comes when all life is free to grow together. As night fell over New Beijing, the quantum lattice above caught the starlight and transformed it, creating auroras that danced across the sky, a reminder that the children of Earth had not just returned home. They had returned with the wisdom to make that home greater than ever before. Dr. Elena Martinez rubbed her tired eyes as she studied the holographic displays floating before her in the xenobiology lab. The clock read 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time, but she barely noticed. She was too absorbed in the patterns emerging from her research. "ARIA, can you overlay the evolutionary trajectories of all council species again? Focus on predatory development patterns." The AI complied, and 12 distinct lines of evolution appeared in the air. Each one showed a remarkably similar pattern: quick development of attack capabilities, specialized hunting adaptations, and most importantly, a preference for single, decisive actions. Now add humanity's trajectory. A new line appeared, standing out from the others like a contradiction. Where the council species showed sharp spikes of evolutionary advancement, humanity's line was a steady, persistent climb. Finally, Elena whispered, reaching out to trace the human evolutionary line with her finger. "Computer, compile research notes. The Council's misunderstanding of humanity isn't just cultural, it's biological." She stood up and paced the lab, her thoughts racing. The Litharians evolved from crystalline ambush predators, the Nexari from energy-consuming void hunters, and every other Council species from similar apex predators. Their entire society was built around the concept of swift, decisive action, because that's how their ancestors survived. Her comm unit chimed. "Dr. Martinez, Ambassador Chen is requesting an immediate conference." Perfect timing. "Put him through, full holographic." James Chen's image materialized in the lab, looking as tired as she felt. "Elena, please tell me you have something." "The Council just denied our appeal for reconsideration." "Better than something," she replied, gesturing at her displays. "I have an explanation. James, we've been playing their game by their rules, but we're not meant to play it that way. Look at this." She sent him the evolutionary comparison data. Every Council species evolved from apex predators, beings that survived by being the fastest, strongest, or most lethal hunter in their environment. But humans? We were persistence hunters. Understanding dawned in the Ambassador's eyes. We survived by outlasting our prey. Exactly. Elena's excitement made her words tumble out faster. Our ancestors didn't need to be the strongest or fastest. We survived because we could track, plan, and keep going long after other predators gave up. The Council sees our careful planning as hesitation because they're biologically programmed for quick strikes. She pulled up footage from ancient Earth, human hunters tracking prey across vast distances, conserving energy, working together. Our greatest strength isn't in single, dramatic moments. It's in our ability to keep going, to solve problems over time, to collaborate and adapt. The Council will never accept this as evidence, James said, but Elena could see the hope building in his expression. "They don't need to accept it," she replied. "They just need to witness it. Remember the Christian mission, when that solar observatory was caught in a gravity well? The one where we spent a week calculating trajectories instead of attempting an immediate rescue." James nodded. "The Council cited it as another example of our hesitation. But every crew member survived," Elena pointed out, "because we took the time to find the right solution. James, we need to stop trying to prove ourselves through their methods. We need a situation where our way is the only way." The Ambassador was quiet for a moment, processing. The Council values actions over words. They won't believe this until they see it demonstrated. "Then we wait for our moment," Elena said, saving her research files. "Our ancestors didn't chase down their prey in the first 5 minutes. They tracked it for days, waiting for the right opportunity." James smiled for the first time since the Council's rejection. "And when that opportunity comes?" "When it comes," Elena replied, looking at the evolutionary patterns still floating in the air. "We'll show them that true strength isn't about striking first or striking hardest. It's about having the wisdom to find the right path and the endurance to see it through." The pieces were falling into place. Humanity didn't need to change to match the Council's expectations. They just needed the right moment to prove that their so-called weakness was actually their greatest asset. That moment was coming sooner than anyone expected. The emergency alert came during a routine council session. Ambassador Chen watched as the chamber's serene atmosphere shattered when the quantum storm warning flashed across every display screen. The Centauri research station's distress signal pulsed in angry red. High Counselor Vanax's scales shifted to a pale gray, a sign of extreme distress. How long until impact? Quantum storm will reach the station in 6 hours, the Litharian representative reported, their crystalline form refracting light in agitated patterns. The station's shields cannot withstand the interference. James studied the data streaming across his tablet. The Centauri research station housed the brightest minds from across known space, 10,000 beings working on projects that could revolutionize interstellar travel. And now they were directly in the path of one of the most destructive phenomena known to spacefaring races. The Nexeri Defense Fleet is closest. Counselor Zara announced, her containment suit pulsing with urgent patterns. We can have 5 ships there in 3 hours. Insufficient, the Litharian countered. Our models show shield degradation begins within minutes of quantum storm exposure. No single ship can maintain integrity long enough to evacuate even a quarter of the station's population. The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices as each representative proposed and dismissed potential solutions. James noticed something familiar in their suggestions. They all involved powerful single-strike attempts at rescue, just like their evolutionary instincts would suggest. His comm unit vibrated. Dr. Martinez's message was brief. We've run the numbers. Look at pattern 7. James pulled up the research pattern she referenced, an ancient diagram of how human hunting parties would pass responsibilities between groups to maintain constant pursuit. His eyes widened as he saw the application. Honorable Council. He spoke up, his voice cutting through the chaos. Earth would like to propose a solution. The chamber fell silent. Vanax's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. Ambassador, while we appreciate your concern, this situation requires immediate, decisive action. Our species' tendency to plan is exactly what's needed, James interrupted. He stood and projected a tactical display into the center of the chamber. The quantum storm's interference prevents any single ship from completing the rescue. But what if we don't use single ships? He manipulated the display, showing a series of points forming a chain between the station and safe space. We create a rescue relay. Multiple ships, each one only staying in the danger zone long enough to safely transfer a group of evacuees to the next vessel in the chain. Preposterous. The Litharian representative flickered. The coordination required is exactly what humanity excels at, James countered. Our entire evolutionary history is based on coordinated effort over time. We don't need one ship to do everything. We need many ships working together, each one doing what it can for as long as it can. The display showed the simulation. Ships moving in and out of the danger zone in a carefully orchestrated dance, each one preserving its shields by limiting exposure time. This plan, Vanax said slowly, would require at least 30 ships working in perfect coordination. 37, James corrected. Earth can provide 15. We ask the Council to provide the rest. The risk is shared among all participants, minimizing the danger to any single crew. James met each Council member's gaze. We're not asking anyone to sacrifice themselves. We're asking them to work together. The chamber fell silent as the Council members studied the simulation. James could almost see them struggling against their instincts, their natural inclination to seek a single, decisive solution. Finally, Counselor Zara spoke. This plan goes against every tactical doctrine we have. Yes, James agreed. Because it's not a tactical doctrine. It's a survival strategy proven over millions of years of human evolution. The only question is, will you trust us to prove it works? The quantum storm morning pulsed again, counting down the minutes until its arrival. The time for debate was over. The Council had to choose: trust humanity's methodical approach, or watch 10,000 brilliant minds fade into the storm. Captain Sarah Patel stood on the bridge of the ECS Endurance, watching the holographic simulation of their rescue route for the 7th time. Around her, crew members from 15 Earth ships and 22 Council vessels participated in the joint briefing via neural link. The quantum storm creates a disruption zone approximately 300,000 kilometers wide, she explained, highlighting the angry red sphere surrounding the Centauri research station. No single ship can maintain shield integrity through that distance, but we don't need to. The simulation showed the planned relay positions. Each ship will hold position at specific coordinates, creating a chain from the station to safe space. We've calculated the maximum safe exposure time for each vessel class: 4 minutes for Earth ships, 6 for Nexari vessels, and 3 for Litharian crystal ships. 4 minutes is barely enough time to dock and transfer passengers, a Nexari captain objected, their containment suit flickering with doubt. Which is why we won't dock, Sarah replied. Earth's solar guard has been practicing short-range matter transport for decades. We've modified our transporters to work in synchronized pairs. Dr. Elena Martinez's voice joined the briefing. The modification allows us to create a stable matter stream between two ships. Think of it as a continuous flow rather than individual jumps. We can move 50 people per minute through each connection. The Council ship captains stirred uneasily. The idea of trusting their people to an untested human technology clearly made them nervous. We understand your concern, Sarah continued. That's why we're not asking you to use our transporters. Council ships will use their own emergency transport methods between their designated positions. We've structured the relay to account for each species' technological preferences. She expanded the tactical display, showing the complex dance they'd choreographed. Earth ships would handle the innermost positions, where their highly maneuverable vessels could best cope with the storm's turbulence. Council ships would form the outer rings, using their more powerful but less agile vessels to their best advantage. Captain Patel, one of the Litharian commanders, chimed in, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of concern. Your ships will sustain significant damage in those positions. Yes, Sarah agreed simply. We know, but our ships are designed to take damage and keep functioning, just like our ancestors could take injuries and keep running until the hunt was complete. Ambassador Chen's voice carried across the neural link. The Council has officially sanctioned this operation, but participation is voluntary. No one will be ordered to. The ECA's Endurance volunteers for Position 1. Sarah interrupted. Closest to the station. One by one, Earth's captains followed suit, claiming the most dangerous positions without hesitation. The Council captains watched in silence as humanity chose the roles most likely to result in ship damage or crew injuries. Why? A Nexari captain finally asked. Why take the highest risk positions? Sarah smiled. Because we've practiced for this, because we know we can endure it, and because if we prove this works, it changes everything. No more accepting casualties as inevitable. No more writing off populations because rescue is too difficult. She looked at the tactical display, where the quantum storm's leading edge was already visible. We're not trying to be heroes. We're not trying to prove we're braver than anyone else. We're just doing what humans have always done. Finding a way to save everyone, no matter how long it takes or how hard we have to work. The simulation played one final time, showing the intricate pattern of ships moving in and out of the danger zone, each one playing its part in a strategy millions of years in the making. Let's make history, Sarah said, ending the briefing. All ships, take your positions. Operation Starbridge begins in 30 minutes. As the neural link dissolved, she heard the Council captains discussing among themselves. They still didn't fully understand humanity's approach. But soon, they would see it in action. And nothing would ever be the same. The quantum storm painted the void in shades of impossible colors as the ECS Endurance took its position nearest to the Centauri research station. Captain Sarah Patel watched the shield integrity readings drop the moment they entered the disruption zone. Shield status at 87% and falling, her first officer reported. 3 minutes 40 seconds of safe exposure remaining. All ships, report readiness, Sarah commanded through the fleet-wide channel. One by one, 37 acknowledgments came back, Earth and Council vessels alike, positioned in their carefully planned formation. Transport systems sensed and ready, the chief engineer called out. Matter stream stabilizers at maximum. Sarah took a deep breath. Begin Operation Starbridge. First wave. Commence transport. The Endurance shuddered as the quantum storm's leading edge struck them. Through the view screen, Sarah watched the station's emergency lights pulse in a desperate rhythm. 10,000 lives waited inside. First transport wave initiating, the operations officer announced. 50 civilians entering matter stream. Transfer successful to ECS persistence. 43 seconds elapsed. The first officer counted. Shield integrity at 72%. Sarah watched the tactical display as the rescued civilians moved through the chain of ships, each vessel holding position, just long enough to receive and pass them along before rotating out to recharge shields. It was like watching a complex dance, every partner moving in perfect synchronization. Warning, the ship's AI announced. Shield harmonics destabilizing. 2 minutes of safe exposure remaining. Maintain position, Sarah ordered. Second wave, begin transport. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, coordinating with each ship in the relay. Years of running similar scenarios in simulation were paying off. Every crew member knew exactly what to do, how long they could push their systems, when to rotate out. Captain, her tactical officer called out, Council ships are reporting better than expected transfer rates. They're learning from our pattern. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Council vessels, initially hesitant about the complex coordination required, were adapting to the rhythm of the operation. Their natural instinct for quick, decisive action was being channeled into a series of smaller coordinated movements. Shield integrity at 40%. The first officer warned. We need to rotate out in 60 seconds. Negative. Sarah responded, watching the station's life signs. There's still a research team in the quantum physics lab. They're having trouble reaching the transport point. Captain, if we stay until they make it, she stated firmly. Divert power from non-essential systems to shields. We didn't come this far to leave anyone behind. The bridge lights dimmed as power was rerouted. The Endurance's hull groaned under the strain of the quantum storm, but held. On the tactical display, the research team's life signs finally began moving toward the transport point. Shield integrity at 25%, the AI warned. Structural damage imminent. Just a little longer, Sarah murmured, watching the researchers' progress. Ancestors give us strength. The final group materialized in their transport bay, just as warning klaxons blared across the ship. Final wave transferred. Operations reported triumphantly. All hands, brace for emergency maneuver. Sarah commanded. Helm, get us out of here. The Endurance rotated hard, its engines straining as they pulled away from the storm's edge. Behind them, the Centauri research station stood empty, its 10,000 inhabitants safely distributed through the relay of ships that stretched to safe space. Damage report, Sarah called out once they were clear. Shield generators burned out. Hull stress at critical levels. Power systems operating at 40% capacity. Her first officer managed a tired grin. But we did it, Captain. Every single person made it out. Sarah nodded, watching as the quantum storm finally engulfed the empty station. They'd suffered damage that would take weeks to repair, but they'd proven something invaluable. Humanity's way worked. Through the fleet channel, she heard council captains discussing what they'd witnessed. They didn't use words like cowardice or hesitation anymore. Instead, they spoke of coordination, endurance, and a new kind of courage they'd never considered before. The stars had just witnessed the birth of a legend. The emergency medical bay of Harmony Station, hummed with activity as doctors from a dozen species treated the rescued researchers. Dr. Elena Martinez moved between the beds, collecting data on her tablet, while Ambassador Chen spoke with the council representatives who had gathered to witness the aftermath of Operation Starbridge. "Your ships sustained severe damage," High Counselor Vanax observed, watching through the observation window as engineering teams swarmed over the scared hull of the ECS Endurance. "The repair costs alone are irrelevant compared to the lives saved," James interrupted gently. "Ships can be repaired. Lives cannot be replaced." An interesting perspective. The Litharian representative crystallized closer, their facets reflecting the medical bay's lights. "Our tactical analysts have been studying the operation. They cannot understand why you chose to rotate ships out before reaching critical damage levels. Surely pushing each vessel to its absolute limit would have been more efficient." Elena looked up from her tablet. "May I answer that?" At James's nod, she approached the council members. "What you saw today wasn't just a rescue operation. It was the culmination of millions of years of evolutionary strategy." She pulled up a holographic display showing ancient cave paintings. "Look at these. Our ancestors didn't kill their prey with a single mighty blow. They pursued it across vast distances, taking turns, sharing the burden of the hunt among the entire group." The display shifted to show Operation Starbridge's ship movements. "See the pattern? It's the same strategy. We didn't need any single ship to be the strongest or fastest. We needed every ship to play its part, to know its limits, and to trust that the others would be there to continue the mission." "But the risk." Counselor Zara's containment suit pulsed with confusion. "Your vessels deliberately took positions that guaranteed damage. Because we knew we could endure it." Captain Sarah Patel's voice came from the doorway. She entered slowly, still favoring her left leg after the Endurance's final maneuver. "Just like our ancestors knew they could endure injuries during a hunt, as long as they didn't push too far at once. The Council has always valued decisive action," Vanax stated, his scales shifting through thoughtful colors. "Single moments of supreme effort that determine success or failure. While humanity values persistence," James added. "The willingness to take damage, yes, but also the wisdom to know when to rotate out, when to let others take the lead, and how to maintain effort over time." Elena brought up new data on the display. "Look at the efficiency readings. Every time a ship rotated out, its replacement was fresh, focused, operating at peak capacity. No single point of failure. No heroic last stands, just coordinated effort driving toward the goal." The medical bay's doors opened again as more of the rescued researchers arrived for checkups. The council members watched as human medical teams worked seamlessly alongside alien colleagues, each group adapting their techniques to complement the others. "We're starting to see it now," Zara said slowly. "What we dismissed as hesitation was actually calculation." The Litharian finished. "The patience to find sustainable solutions rather than immediate victories." Sarah smiled. "Humanity never evolved to be the strongest predator, counselors. We evolved to be the most persistent. We learned to observe, adapt, and keep going when others would stop. Today wasn't about proving we could match your way of doing things. It was about showing you a different kind of strength entirely," James concluded. "One that doesn't rely on single moments of supreme effort, but on the continuous application of sustainable force." Through the station's viewport, they could see the quantum storm still raging where the research station had once been. But its fury seemed diminished now, its impossible colors less threatening. Humanity had proven that even the most destructive forces in space could be overcome with patience, planning, and persistence. The council members exchanged looks that carried centuries of shared understanding. They had witnessed something that would change their civilization forever. The age of the decisive strike was over. The era of sustained effort had begun. 2 weeks after Operation Starbridge, Ambassador James Chen stood before the full Stellar Council Assembly. The chamber, usually arranged in rigid hierarchical tiers, had been reformed into a circular arrangement at the Council's request. a small but significant change that reflected larger transformations taking place. "The data speaks for itself," High Counselor Vanax announced. His scales now shifted to the deep blue of formal proclamation. "Operation Starbridge has revealed fundamental flaws in our emergency response protocols. We must adapt." The assembled representatives murmured in agreement. On the massive displays surrounding the chamber, footage from the rescue operation played on continuous loop. Earth ships and council vessels moving in their intricate dance through the quantum storm. "Ambassador," Counselor Zara addressed James, her containment suit pulsing with formal patterns. "The Council requests Earth's assistance in implementing what we're calling the Persistence Protocol. We believe your species' expertise in sustained operations could revolutionize our approach to crisis management." James caught Dr. Elena Martinez's eye from where she sat with the scientific delegation. Her slight smile told him she'd expected this. "Earth would be honored to assist," he replied. "What specifically are you proposing?" The Litharian representative crystallized forward. "We've analyzed the operation's success. The key wasn't in any single ship's capabilities, but in the coordination between vessels. In the willingness to rotate resources to sustain effort over time, rather than expend all energy in one attempt. Like your ancestors tracking prey across vast distances," Vanax added, showing how deeply the Council had studied humanity's history. "We've always valued the decisive moment, the single perfect strike. But your approach offers something we never considered: the ability to solve problems too large for any single action to address." The chamber's holographic display shifted to show new ship designs. James recognized the influence of human engineering. Multiple redundant systems, modular components designed to continue functioning even when damaged, power distributions optimized for sustained operation rather than burst capability. "We're redesigning our fleets," Zarat explained, "not to make them more powerful, but to make them more enduring." Captain Patel's demonstrations of damaged systems continuing to function challenged everything we thought we knew about ship design. "And it goes beyond ships," another council member added. "We're restructuring our emergency response teams, our research methodologies, even our educational systems. The ability to maintain effort over time, to adapt and persist. These are skills we never properly valued before." Elena stepped forward when James gestured for her to join him. "You're not just adopting our methods," she observed. "You're beginning to understand the philosophy behind them." "Yes," Vanax agreed. "We've spent millennia celebrating the perfect moment, the ultimate victory. But you've shown us that the greatest achievements often come not from single acts of supreme effort, but from the patient application of sustainable force." The displays showed new footage. Council ships running endurance drills, crews practicing coordinated operations, emergency teams learning to work in rotating shifts. The change was already spreading through their civilization like ripples in a pond. "There's more," Zora said. "The Council has reviewed Earth's application for deep space exploration rights. We were wrong to dismiss your methods as hesitation. What we saw as overcautious behavior was actually something we'd never encountered before: strategic persistence." James felt the weight of the moment. "And your decision? Earth's application is approved," Vanax announced. "More than that, we request that Earth take the lead in establishing new protocols for deep space exploration. Your species' unique approach to problems, your ability to endure and adapt, makes you ideally suited to face the unknown." The chamber erupted in agreement. James watched as representatives from a dozen worlds rose to pledge their support, to request training in human methodologies, to propose joint missions combining the best of both approaches. The stars that had once labeled humanity cowards now looked to them for leadership, not because humans were stronger or faster or more advanced, but because they had proven that true greatness lies not in the ability to strike hardest, but in the wisdom to know how to keep going until the job is done. 1 year after Operation Starbridge, the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth Council Academy of Strategic Operations buzzed with activity. Captain Sarah Patel, now Admiral Patel, stood beside Dr. Elena Martinez, watching students from 24 species practice coordinated response scenarios. "Look at them," Elena said, gesturing to where a young Litharian crystal form worked seamlessly with a human cadet. "They're not just learning the procedures. They're understanding the philosophy behind them." Sarah nodded, noting how the training groups naturally rotated members in and out, maintaining peak performance through carefully managed effort. "Remember when they used to call this approach cowardice? Now they call it the human pattern." Ambassador Chen's voice came from behind them. He joined them at the viewport, looking considerably more relaxed than he had a year ago. "Though I'm not sure that name captures the full scope of what's happening here." The Academy itself was a testament to the changes sweeping through galactic civilization. Its design incorporated both council efficiency and human endurance, redundant systems, rotating duty stations, and most importantly, spaces designed for different species to work together in sustained operations. "The latest deep space survey results came in," James continued, pulling up a holographic display. "The Joint Earth Council expeditions have mapped 30% more territory than any previous effort. Not because we're faster, but because we keep going," Elena finished. "The Council ships provide the burst speed when needed, while our vessels maintain the steady pace that lets us cover more ground thoroughly." Below them, in one of the Academy's large simulation chambers, a mixed group of students was running the quantum storm scenario. But unlike the original crisis, this time every participant understood their role in the larger pattern. There were no heroic last stands, no glorious sacrifices, just coordinated effort driving toward a common goal. "The Council's evolutionary biologists have been studying our research," Elena added, checking her tablet. "They're fascinated by how different survival pressures created such distinct approaches to problems. Some species evolve for the perfect strike, while we evolved to keep going until we succeeded." Sarah completed the thought. "And now both approaches are stronger together than either was alone." The Academy's alert system chimed softly, announcing the arrival of a council delegation. Through the viewport, they could see High Counselor Vanax's ship docking, its design now incorporating human-inspired endurance features alongside its traditional council weapons. "They're here for the graduation ceremony," James reminded them. "The first class of joint-trained officers. Did you finish your speech, Admiral?" Sarah smiled. "Actually, I thought I'd speak about distance running." Elena raised an eyebrow. "The graduation ceremony for space officers, and you're going to talk about running." "About how our ancestors would run after prey until it couldn't run anymore," Sarah clarified. "About how every generation passed down not just the technique, but the understanding that victory doesn't always go to the swiftest or strongest. Sometimes it goes to those who simply refuse to stop." The Academy's halls filled with beings from across known space, each bringing their own strengths to a new way of facing the galaxy's challenges. The stars that had once witnessed humanity's supposed weakness now shone down on something unprecedented. A civilization learning to combine immediate action with long-term persistence. "You know what the Council's synanthropologists are saying?" Elena asked, watching the diverse crowd below. "They think this might be why the galaxy needed humanity. Every other spacefaring race evolved to be the ultimate predator on their world. But the galaxy doesn't need more predators. It needs people who know how to keep going," James agreed. "Who understand that the greatest victories often come not from a single perfect moment, but from the willingness to take one more step," Sarah finished. "To try one more time. To hold out just a little longer." Above them, the stars continued their eternal dance, watching as the species they had once dismissed reshaped the very meaning of strength in the cosmos. Humanity had not just proven them wrong. They had shown them a better way forward. The age of persistence had only just begun.